What's up? This is Joe. Welcome to my 5 Minute Friday for March 1st. So I'm sitting in the swanky W Hotel in Verbier, Switzerland, just taking a quick reprieve from the skid conference at Skiers and Data. It's put on by Chris Tabb and his wonderful crew at Elite. Second year they're doing it. It's awesome. It's definitely a privilege to hang out in the Alps here. And just listen to some awesome talks with data practitioners and hang out with practitioners, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. And it's snowing here, it's lovely, it's winter wonderland, but enough about that. Things in my mind this week. I've been thinking about the notions of debt, and by debt I mean, the debt you incur when you're trying to, quote, add value, right? So you can add value maybe the Dave Ramsey way, which is don't incur debt. This often means moving very slow, moving very deliberately. But that's not the reality of most businesses. You're going to be taking shortcuts typically, and then shortcuts and things like that mean you're going to incur debt, right? So we'll start off with the first debt, which is technical debt. Technical debt often refers to the quick fixes taken to meet your short-term goals, often the expense of long-term sustainability of your systems. So some examples might include temporary workarounds, not following proper standards, ignoring vulnerabilities and so forth, right? So what this does is it increases your maintenance costs, decreases your code quality and system quality, and obviously increases all sorts of risks to you, right? But sometimes this is a necessary evil. A lot of stakeholders don't want to take the time for you to invest maybe in doing things the right way. So you're going to have to find these workarounds, right? But there's other debt, right? So on your way to achieving business value, if you first incurred your technical debt because you needed to get something stood up, and inherently, getting things stood up means it's done quickly, and you're going to incur some debt. So let's talk about data debt. That's maybe the second type, right? It maybe often refers to the accumulation of, bad data. This might be inconsistent, inaccurate, incomplete data, and this starts piling up over time, right? And I'm pretty sure as a data practitioner, you're well aware of what data debt looks like and its manifestations. It often occurs when people don't believe the data, don't trust it, the data manifests itself in inaccuracies. Maybe you see them, maybe you don't. As Matt Housley and I always say, data is a silent killer, in the sense where often data errors will go on for years without being noticed, and then all of a sudden you notice them, or somebody else notices them, more to the point, and this often causes some problems. And this is coupled with technical debt, right? Because in the sense where you're trying to take shortcuts, data debt is often the result of not thinking too carefully about your data, not noticing inconsistencies, maybe not caring because you have to, quote, get something stood up, right? And so what this often leads to, again, as I said, is a lack of trust in the data. And the organization starts losing its patience with the data team. And then this brings us to the third type of debt, which is organizational debt. And this is the debt that you have to pay back in the form of regaining trust with the organization, with the stakeholders, with other teams that may depend on you, that you might be working with. And so I often view organizational debt as a punch pass. You might have a punch pass of, let's say 10 punches you get on that punch pass. As you get closer to number 8 and 9, you might want to start getting worried, because when you hit number 10, your data team is probably going to be dissolved, and you're all going to have to find something else to do. And I've seen this happen. And so, when we're talking about tech debt, data debt, organizational debt, I mean, these are all, highly related, but they're separate threads, right? Tech debt is different than data debt, and data debt is different than organizational debt. But these are all, three sides of the same dice, so to speak. So, so as you're working through your projects, just beware. When you're trying to add value, value can be created in a number of ways. It can be created like I said, the Dave Ramsey way, where you're doing it the slow, methodical, quote, the right way, and everything's done perfectly. That often doesn't exist in the real world. So you're going to have to figure out what shortcuts are going to make sense. What shortcuts are you going to take that will hopefully, be advantageous to you, right? And also, how are you going to pay down this debt, right? So part of this comes down to, I mean, you might want to view organizational debts. The punch pass I mentioned is just sort of how you want to view all sorts of debt. Where if you have 10 punches on that pass, how many do you want to take for you start putting yourself at risk, right? So maybe some things you can do as well to figure out the debt, how much you want to calculate is measure things like code metrics, so code complexity and duplication, both of code and data and so forth. Set up observability maybe early often. My friend Andy Petrella has this notion of data observability driven development. I think that's actually in the data world you're going to start seeing more of that. Figure out your scope, figure out your estimates. Are you good at scoping projects, or are you pretty crappy? If you're good at that, then great. If not, this is where you're gonna have to start taking shortcuts, right? Because you scope your project badly and you have to deliver it on a deadline. That's how the world works. Code reviews, meeting with other stakeholders to make sure the data is believable. As my friend Bill Inman always says, he believes the data should be believable. It doesn't mean it's correct, but it passes the smell test. And so, all these things I would say, just involve stakeholders early on and get them involved. The worst place I could see you being is, and the places I see people accumulating debt is when they don't involve other people and they assume that they have to operate in a vacuum. And often how that manifests itself is you're going to do things the wrong way because you haven't included other people's opinions and ideas. So anyway, that's the ideas in tech, data, and organizational debt. Every data team is going to incur some of this. I guess it's the degree to which you want to do it and the number of times you're going to be given on your punch pass. Before you might have to take some more drastic measures. But anyway, I got to get back to the conference now. I got to go be on a panel in a bit, and it's going to be a fun time in Verbier. If you ever get a chance to come up here, it's a lovely area. It's extremely beautiful. And I'm going to be hanging out in Switzerland for the weekend, and then I'm off to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia for LEAP and Deep Fest. I'm going to be speaking there. That's a conference of like 170 plus thousand people, so that's going to be fascinating to see. And I've never been to Saudi Arabia, so it's going to be another adventure in itself. Then back in the States for a bit over a week. Then I'm back to Europe, actually going to be speaking at One Point's conference in Paris, France. So you have to happen to be in Paris, hit me up. Let's go grab a beer. So anyway, hope you have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.